you guys. It's me, Dr. Torie. My book is officially out. And yes, it is time to talk about ACEs. You guys can find the books everywhere. However, I would encourage you guys to go to my website, VicTORIEus.com, and place your order today. Yes, it's time to talk about ACEs. Let's go, y'all.
Hello, you guys. Welcome back to another episode of Be Victorious. It's me, Dr. Torie, and I have to share something valuable. This young lady, I actually really know. Not just from Kansas City, not because she's dope, not because she's a soror. I grew up with this young lady, and it's a pleasure to have her here. Now, what I would love to share is that, yeah, we separated. She's been doing her thing. She's been through a lot, but it's my pleasure to have her here with me. I'm rambunctious, and she's loquacious. Sorry, I had to share that with everyone. Dr. Ponder, come on in.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for having me.
So it's my pleasure. Look at you.
I sometimes wonder if you remember my name, because for
Are you
25 years I've been loquacious.
I'm sorry.
More than half our both our lifetimes. Both our lifetimes had more than half our lifetimes I've been loquacious, so I just take it.
I'm sorry. It was the perfect name for me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So it's my pleasure. It is. Just so you all know, Kansas City born and raised. One of my babies. One of my
pillow, my Kansas City pillow right here.
That's right. Yes. And honestly, I want to let people know she is one of the ones that inspired me to go back to school to get my doctorate degree. It's humbling when you have mentees that make these decisions for themselves and then they do it. And it's like, well, you know what? You are representing, you are doing what you're doing, not just for yourself, but for your family, for the community of Kansas City. It's just an honor. It's really an honor for you to be here. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
So let's begin.
Go.
Where should we? Because, like, let's be clear. You understand ACEs. You know about ACEs. You have a valuable story.
Yeah, I do.
So where should we begin?
You ask me a question and I will answer it truthfully.
What's your ACEs score?
My ACEs score is 4 out of 11.
Well, the thing is, with us coming from the same community, we have an ACEs score. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. What we did was a little different than some, if that makes sense. We actually came out of our community as people thriving for change. And so, again, with things like bullying and community violence and mass shootings, something I'm sure you're well aware of, they actually just talked about it during the event and shared all those wonderful stories. That's the reason why you're here. And so again, with us being in spaces where we have to share our story, how do you share the experiences that you experienced growing up?
Well, you know, that is the 4th chapter in my book, and it's titled The Makings of Me. And as much as I would have loved to go even deeper in the book, but there are just so many things that I appreciated about my upbringing and my family. But then also at the same time, you know, there are things that I'm changing now for the next generation, right? So like you shared, I was bullied like almost nonstop by family, you know, and I was never bullied at school, which is funny. I was never bullied at school, everyone. I was always a pretty popular kid at school, but I felt like the bullying at home, it really caused more trauma for me. And I didn't realize that until I became an adult. And so what I've tried to do is to be that auntie and that cousin that I wished I had, to be honest with you. And that does not, and I've also learned that hurt people, you know, And so there's no resentment or ill feelings. I don't walk around holding grudges. But that's because the way my prayer life is set up, right? You know, and a lot of things that I'll never forget. I've already forgiven, right? Because the way I walk, I'm on my walk in my faith journey.
Amen.
But I still know that still makes me me.
Mhm.
If Claire Huxtable was my mama, I would not be Neosho. Let's be
Okay.
very clear. And I had to make peace with that because my mama crazy, y'all. She crazy. You know, you got that auntie that'll go up to the school and fight everybody. That was my mom, you know, because she was an auntie way before I got here. So I had to find those things that made me me and appreciate them, and not push down the things that hurt because they still made me me.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I have to apologize to you, audience. I forgot to make mention that she is an author. And so she has not just one, she has several books.
No, I
Um,
this guy.
Actually, you do. Quit downplaying yourself,
I've
Neo.
only written one book.
You're writing another one.
Well, yeah, but it's in developmental, y'all. But I have contributed to articles and a ton of podcasts. But yeah, I'm not a writer. Like, I don't enjoy it at all. I'm a talker, hence loquacious. If I could talk, I just talk it. But yeah. Well, yes, I have my book here. God's got jokes.
God's got jokes.
Yes, he
Tell
does.
us about God's got jokes.
So the book titled itself, if that makes sense. So it starts out, you know, I have to pause my TV. It starts out in 2014. I'm going into the last year of my doctoral journey. You know, I lost my fellowship that I'd had for 3 years for no reason, ended up getting another one immediately to pay for my last year of school. Learned that my sorority has $1 million endowment at Howard. Who knew? And they helped me pay my bills with money from that just to get through the last year. And then in October of 2014, I was reading an article in O Magazine. And the article was about this woman who suffered from adult ADHD. And I thought I was reading about myself. I had a whole breakdown. It was very out of body-esque. And with that, I, struggled writing my dissertation because you have to write for hours at a time. It's not a quick thing, and you have to think and know what you want to write. Well, anyway, long story less long, as I'm finishing my what's called my pre-defense, the first 3 chapters, if you will, of my dissertation, I'm realizing that I need help. So my doctor, I prescribed medication and suggested that I go to a student health center therapist, and I did that for the rest of that school year. When the medication first kicked in, I started rewriting my first 3 chapters, and my advisor yelled at me like, "Did I tell you to do that?" And she a short sister from Baltimore. She don't play. And I was like, "No, ma'am," but I didn't understand what I wrote. It was that bad. So I wrote my entire dissertation. I rewrote the first 3 chapters in January of 2015, and I wrote my entire dissertation in 3 months. And it was nothing but God. It was nothing but God and Adderall that got me out of school. I've always been a great student, but I did not realize how my brain operated different than others. And it's caused a lot of issues in my life that I was unaware of. So I'm interviewing for jobs, looking for a full-time job. Didn't find a full-time job all that year. 2016 comes. I'm have a whole mental health breakdown because I'm like, oh God, what am I gonna do? And I was like, oh, I could sign up for Obamacare and get health insurance. I had no health insurance. And a month after my insurance card came in the mail, I found Clarence. Clarence was a 2.8 centimeter tumor in my left breast. at about 8 o'clock.
Mm.
And when I discovered Clarence on April 8th, 2016 at 5:37 p.m., I knew my life would never be the same. That's why I looked at the clock. And God told me, as plain as I'm talking to you all today, he said, this is why you can't find a job. I have a bigger job for you.
Mm-hmm.
And when I heard that, I was like, well, I'm not ready to die, you know. And in my conversations following that with God, it was like he just kept saying fight. He just kept saying fight.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did. It was never difficult to fight because it was like a no-brainer. And it's
Right.
kind of how when where a lot of us grow up in these inner cities, it's like you're not thinking about, you don't know what it means to keep your head on a swivel because that's natural for you, right? It's
Mhm.
instinctive for you.
Right.
And or when you hear gunshots, it's instinctive what you need to do. It's
Mhm.
not like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? No, we don't do that. So for me, it was like I have no family in Washington, D.C. My family's crazy. I can't go home because my parents are my children, right? And at the time I had 3 children. So there's no way I'm gonna go home because Pam, that's my mama, she just stresses me out if yeah. So I started going through treatment and everything. And then I want to say around 2017 is when I really started telling my story. I was featured on CNN for the Affordable Care Act. I did a BET breast cancer campaign that year as well. And the more I told my story to people just one-on-one, the more they were like, you got to write a book. And I was like, child, bye. I said, every time I thought something was going good, God had a joke for me. And I just started saying, God's got jokes, God's got jokes. And it wasn't to make light of my situation or my faith. It's more so like God telling me, you need to sit down somewhere, you know, and the more you do that I tell you not to do, the more I'm going to laugh at you.
Mhm.
And, you know, I was battling homelessness. I was battling insecure, you know, money insecurity to pay my bills. I still had a car payment at the time.
Mhm.
You know, I didn't know where I was going to live for 6 months, from 6 months to 6 months, you know.
Right.
And then the radiation burn it just put everything on hold. I had a radiation burn that never healed. Um, Something I haven't told anybody,
Mhm.
but I'm a breast cancer advocate now, and I have have an event on Saturday at my alma mater at Howard University with the
Mhm.
student organization. So the organization Tiger Lily that I do breast cancer advocacy with
Right.
has partnered with a student organization to do an advocacy summit. And when I was told in July that they really wanted me to be on this panel and speak at this event. And then 2 weeks ago, I found out that the person who burned the shit out of me was going to be on a panel with me.
Mm.
And I didn't realize it was that triggering for me at the time.
Wow.
So I had to disclose that because no one knows who my radiology oncologist was. No one knows where I had radiation. And I still don't tell people. And thank God for HIPAA.
Wow.
That way she won't say nothing either.
Wow.
And so having a little PTSD from that burn was horrible. It
I
never
believe.
healed. It wouldn't go away. It almost killed me. I was in the hospital almost septic for 4 days. And my biological father, just died of sepsis the year before. So to be in a hospital bed alone, um, having conversations with God, you know,
Mm.
and I was in so much pain, I wanted to die at times. You know, I considered suicide at times.
Mm.
And no matter what I went through in my life, I was like, we all got shit. I never thought about that before, but
Right.
that's how much pain I was in. Physical pain. Let's be very clear. You know, I was on a whole lot of medication. Thank God addiction doesn't run in my family. Because I've seen these movies about the opioid crisis, and that was the height of the opioid crisis, 2017.
Mhm.
that I am battling. I had to go to the state of Maryland, away from DC, to get opioids for pain because DC would not administer opioids at any pharmacy except for the actual hospital pharmacies. Hospital pharmacy said you had to sit there for 4 hours.
Right.
Before they gave you your prescription filled, before they fill your prescription. 4 hours. I was like, I didn't understand that. Come to find out, it's because they wanted to see if I was going to go through withdrawal. So they wanted me to sit there in pain for 4 hours. The devil is a lie.
Okay.
Because what we do in Delta is we make a way out of no way. And that's exactly what I did. So I went to the state of Maryland. I couldn't go too far into Maryland because I have DC Medicaid, but I went to the state of Maryland and found a pharmacy. Ironically, the pharmacist was a soror, and we went to the same church. Go figure. That's how God works. And I'm laughing about it because he is funny like that.
Yeah.
And
I'm actually glad that you are bringing this up because the God's Got Jokes make sense.
Yeah. He's hilarious.
We serve an amazing God.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you're saying this because he set you down.
All day. Sit down somewhere, girl. Yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned
I wouldn't have been half the person I am now. It was extremely humbling to go through all that I went through. You know, as you know, because of what's going on in your life, you know, earning a doctorate, a terminal degree is something people treat you differently. And there's a level of arrogance that comes with it. And I didn't know I had that until I had it. And it humbled me. It really did. Yeah, it did.
Wonderful.
I'm sorry I cut you off, but
no, I'm listening to you. You talked about so much.
Yeah.
And guess what? You're a survivor. So not only are you a breast cancer survivor, you made mention of abuse. You made mention of attempted suicide. You made mention of not liking to visit because of triggers.
Yeah.
But God got jokes. You're still here.
Yep. Still here.
Through the grace of God.
Yep.
So we got to get this book, you guys, because it's a testimony within a testimony. You're sharing your story.
Yeah.
And in your new book, you're going to share your story as well. There are people out there that don't survive breast cancer. There are people that do, and you are one of those people.
I
the
fought
things
back.
that you're doing. Yeah.
I fought back on doing advocacy because I didn't want to lose anybody. I know that was selfish, but it's like I'm a sensitive, as you know, I'm a sensitive person. I cry all the time. You know, I do cry, and I've learned.
Quit trying to put me out there as
oh my gosh. And you know, you make
they love Dr. Torie. They love Dr. VicTORIEus. Right. They don't know Big Sister.
So you making me cry. All it was, it just reminded me of my older cousins in that moment, which is why I could take it because I got tormented like that all the time.
I mean, come on now. Come on.
It just is, right? And I made it through, right? And that's it.
If God brings you to it, though, he brings you through it.
Exactly.
And in this situation, yeah.
It is. People who don't cry, I wonder about them. I wonder about their relationship. I wonder about their mental health.
But it could be something, because I know for me, I didn't consider myself an emotional person until I got older. Yeah. But I also know that comes from our sensitivity as far as ACEs is concerned. See, we didn't have ACEs growing up. We had, you know, keep your mouth closed, you know, or, you know, stay out of grown folks' business, or stay in your lane or stay in your place. You ain't grown, you know what I mean? Yep. And if I would have known, and I can say that because the stuff that we went through growing up,
Yeah.
the stories, the support, all of that, the bond.
Mhm.
Now they
Yeah.
even got a word for that. It's like, look, listen,
Mhm.
we have these opportunities to know better and
Mhm.
do something about it.
Yes.
And you
Exactly.
working with Tiger Lily is doing something about it. You're, and I get what you're saying. I do. But you graduated from Howard University. Let's be clear, people from Kansas City don't.
Twice. I graduated from Howard twice.
Okay. And I didn't want to put it there. Let's be clear. We've been knowing each other for a long time.
Yeah.
That opportunity to at least graduate and leave Kansas City is a big deal. But you went to Howard.
Yeah. Yeah. And I realized too that all the things that we went through just in our neighborhood and our families, and then even extended people around us, right? They even would try to tear us down for our aspirations. One of my high school best friends definitely was one of those people, and literally was like, you act like you better than everybody else. No, I think I'm better than Kansas City. I'm better than my situation here. I don't think I'm better than you. Well, I mean, if I thought I was better than you, I would be your friend. Like, and that I had to dissolve that friendship because, and that, mind you, we went another about almost 20, almost like I say 15 years after even that. That was me leaving Kansas City to go to California for 5 minutes. And then eventually coming to DC, going through 2 degrees here in DC, and learning that the best friend that I called my sister, that I went to high school with, that we've been through everything together, was going back to school and earning degrees and didn't even tell me. And then told me, well, you're getting a PhD. What does my PhD got to do with you achieving your goals? Like, that didn't make sense to me. It still really doesn't. But that told me that that person had some issues.
So
yeah,
you brought back up bullying, because really that's what it is.
Don't make me feel bad because I got aspirations. Yeah. Don't tear me down. And then also don't take away the opportunity for me to be a person to you and to lift you up. Like, to me, that was a slap in my face as a friend. And it.
So what you're saying is that also your childhood experiences don't really, it's not about those experiences as far as relationships sexually, it's friendships included.
Oh yes, friendships too. And I think that her childhood experiences led to why she acted the way that she did. And and I'm at a place now where I want people to know I had to deal with losing a biological sister to domestic violence. My first semester in grad school, 2008. Not a secret. I've always told people that. I mentioned it in my book. So I lost my oldest sister on my father's side to domestic violence. Fast forward 2014, I learned that my best friend is being abused by her husband. And then she stops talking to me because she says I was going to judge her for staying with her husband.
Let's talk about aces. This is it.
It's real convenient for you to tell me what I'm going to do. I never got I said, I tell you what, because I had a dissertation to write. I said, and mind you, I went through years of being that person for everybody, right? And this was the start of me choosing Neosho.
Right.
I said, either I'm going to help you bury the body, or I'm going to do your eulogy. But no matter what, I'm your friend.
Right.
I'm there for you.
Right.
I'm not here to judge you. But what I've learned and what I've realized, and again, when you sick, you got a lot of time to think and talk to God, is that my sister is included in this. My sister, who we have the same mother, who's still living. She's the reason I'm an auntie, right? My sister is included in this. I can't help that my existence bothers you. That's between you and your Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
I can't help that. So
You're
the
right.
jealousy and all the things that you have inside of you, that comes from your own childhood traumas. Not
So
me, not me.
So what do you think about helping people as far as understanding? Because I think the community that we came from has no clue about this because
Mm-hmm.
we normalize,
Yep.
like how you just shared 4 times. We normalize so much. So
Mm-hmm.
what do you say to not just the community you grew up in, but the community that you are nurturing right now in regards to understanding ACEs? How can you help the
We have to
community
get
that you
over
grew
the
in?
shame.
Mm.
We have to get over the shame. I think in the stories that I told, you know, I used to be ashamed of my intelligence. I used to be ashamed that I was a chunky girl with a cute face. This is what my cousins would always say. You fat, but you cute, but you fat. That was the whole thing. Mind you, when I think back, I was not fat. You know, like in college, I was like 160 pounds.
Mhm.
I never want to be that small again. Let's be
Well,
very clear.
right.
Like I like my grown woman weight, but I think about that, and then I think about how I was laughed at and made fun of for being vulnerable, for being sensitive, right? And now I look at people who are not vulnerable and not sensitive as monsters. Like, so you're gonna walk around with all this stuff bottled up. That's why you got bad acne and you look older than you are. How about
Stop it, girl.
How about that?
You're supposed to come with passion.
No, that's it though. I'm saying that these are the things that manifest in people who don't recognize that they are the problem. They have their own issues. We have to
You're
recognize
right.
our own shit. And
You're
at the
right.
end of the day, I recognize mine. I know I do believe that there are things that I could have done differently, right? I could have maybe spoken up, or I could have been more quiet in certain moments. That I didn't have the tools.
Mm,
And I still every day seek the tools.
right.
You know,
Because healing is a journey.
it
It's not
is.
something that you just say, okay, done.
Yeah.
It's a journey. You're
Yeah.
going to be forever healing. You are a survivor.
Yeah. And we got to stop looking back. The preacher on Sunday, this how God be working. He make me sick. All right. The preacher on Sunday preached about forward,
Mm,
right?
mm-hmm,
And not looking back. Just this past Sunday. And
mm-hmm,
normally I pull out my notebook when I talk about, but I remembered it because it
mm-hmm.
hit me and it touched me because I needed that sermon for what I'm about to experience on Saturday. Now I'm not on the
Right.
panel with the person, but I'm still in the same room. I'm at the same event, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I had to think about moving forward and not looking back. And
Right.
that's been an issue for a lot of people. They want to bring up old stuff all the time. I mean, my family still does. They want to talk about old stuff, cracking jokes and playing the dozens and remember when, ha ha ha, and it's like, yeah, but can we move forward? There are things we can laugh about, but let's move forward as well.
Right.
But yeah, I think that when you are walking around here passing judgment and doing things that are harmful to you and your family, all because you don't know how to do anything else, that's trauma. When you can't be in a healthy relationship,
Ooh.
that's trauma.
Mm-hmm.
People laugh at me because, or got little shady stuff to say because I've never been married and I don't have children and things like that. And it's like, you know what though? I don't take BS in relationships.
They also don't know your story either.
Yeah. It's like I've seen so many horrible, how many like boyfriends, my ex-boyfriends, my cousins have that I still act like they family.
Mm-hmm.
My auntie's ex-boyfriend that we ain't supposed to talk to because she got a husband now. First of all, y'all were dating for 30 years and then you got married. So no, he's still my uncle and he's still my uncle. That ain't how this works, right? And it's like, I'm not that person. And my family knows the person I bring to Kansas City is the person I'm marrying.
So speaking of Kansas
like
City, let's have a conversation about Kansas City. Do you
Kansas
visit often?
I used to.
What stopped you from visiting Kansas City?
It got more and more difficult as I did not have resources. So the less money I have, the more difficult it is in Kansas City. My parents, my mom and my bonus dad don't have space for me because my younger sister had 5 kids and 2 of them lived in my room. And then I have extended family that I've tried to stay with at different times, and at times those were not healthy situations for me, you know. And so it was like I didn't have money to get a hotel or stay in an Airbnb, you know. And I thank God for my biological father's brother, who is like a pillar of the community in Kansas City. You know, when they let me stay at their house, which is a like fresh air, like I could breathe, because being with my mom's side of the family at times can be a lot and overwhelming for me and triggering. So as time's gone on, you know, I first tapered off with going for Thanksgiving, and then and then after chemo, when I was told that I had to bring food to Christmas dinner a week after I finished chemo, and I couldn't use cancer as an excuse. Yeah. And how I was sick the all day Christmas and nobody checked on me, like things like this that people don't realize that is traumatic. I had to grow from that. I had to learn that I cannot continually put myself in these trauma-filled situations. And unfortunately, those situations are always orchestrated by family. And it's the family that I grew up with, right? So it's all that I know. Is where I want to be for holidays, because that makes me feel closer to my grandparents and uncles who have passed on. And then, but the family who would embrace me, I feel uncomfortable because I'm not used to being around them during holidays. So I've had to, like, you know, think about that. I attend a mega church here in Maryland, and they have service every day, every holiday. So I go to church on Thanksgiving, I go to church on Christmas. I love it. And I have a village still, people's homes I can go to, you know, and not have any issues or trauma filled occurrences. The last time I was in Kansas City, I had an extremely traumatic event, and it led me to completely separate and disassociate from the only other person in my family who went to college. So yeah, I'm still technically first generation college. But only one other person who only has a bachelor's degree, you know, on my mom's side. And not that many of us, you know, none, like I think 2 of my grandmother's 6 children has high school diplomas. You know, my mom dropped out of high school in 11th grade. So the only other person in the family that has a remote closeness to me academically, and then they, you know, did some things and said some things that was just so hurtful, and I didn't understand why, you
So
know.
you're telling me,
So I'm not going back to
interesting.
Kansas City until I vote, and that's it.
You're telling me that for everything that has happened to you, the family has excluded you.
At times, oh yeah, life goes on for them, and they're fine with it. I mean, we have a group chat, you know, but other than that, yeah, I mean, they don't. It's so funny. Certain individuals I'm still close with. You know, I still talk to my favorite cousin,
Tell
who
her
has
I
their
said
own
hi, by the
demons.
way.
Huh?
Tell her I said hi, by the way.
Oh no, it's her brother, and she doesn't like that he's my favorite and I'm his favorite. So that's
Oh,
what's hilarious. Yeah.
oh, okay.
But she's still my sister cousin. Like
Okay.
like my older cousins are still my sister cousins and my brother cousins.
Okay.
But Zester is my favorite cousin.
Uh-huh.
And I'm his favorite cousin, and she's always like, "Hi, he we just have a special bond." Like it's been like that since forever.
Yes.
You know, since I was a little girl decorating his Cobra head. Like we go back.
Okay.
Okay, helping him with
Shout out to the Kansas
so
City, Kansas
shout
City
out to the
Mountain
Cobras.
Cobras.
Right. I used to help him and Richard decorate their Cobra heads and
Mhm.
his costumes for dance competitions. And so that's what I'm saying. Like my mom, we still lived there. And so did he
Mhm.
when everybody else moved out. So
Right.
it's kind of like we just always had a special bond. It's always been like that. But yeah, like I still communicate with my family. Tomorrow is my mother's oldest sister's birthday, who was my second
Mhm.
mom. And that's Zester Sneak and Tina's mom, my Aunt Renee, the one that
Mhm.
worked at the hospital, as people call
Yeah.
her. They always
Yeah.
say, "Is it the one at the police station or the one at the hospital?"
Right.
That's
One or the
always how
other.
people identify my aunties. But
Right.
tomorrow's her 75th birthday.
Oh, wonderful. What a
And
blessing.
yeah, so I'm still in touch, but it's not the same. And there are individuals that I do not communicate with. And I'm
And
okay.
that's understandable
Yeah. Because I'm
because this
choosing
is
Neosho. Before I would force relationships because it's family. And
very
no,
good.
that's not healthy.
But listen to what you just said, and there's growth, and you could tell
Yeah.
because you have always done for everybody. You've always
Yeah.
done for everybody. And
Mhm.
so to hear you say you have protected your own boundary and did
Yeah.
something for you, congratulations, because our family can hurt us, honey. Let me share my book. It ain't even fresh off the box yet. And the
Yeah.
family like, yep, she talking about us. Y'all did it. My response to
Yeah.
anyone, before you make assumptions, before you make decisions on somebody else's
Mhm.
success,
Yeah.
go do your own research yourself. Because
Mhm.
I'm waiting for people to say, oh, well, she did it. No, go get the book. Have you read it yet?
Yeah.
Have you even picked up your copy?
Yeah.
Has your family picked up God's Got Jokes?
Yeah. Well, my cousins all bought a book. My sister felt like she was entitled to a book, and I was like, "What? Don't you have a job?"
Right.
But I did gift my mom and her sisters a book, and my uncle
Mhm.
Gary, and actually my aunt Anita bought 5 books. That's a whole nother story though. But on my father's side, my uncle Gary and his wife, they bought a bunch of books because that's what they do.
Okay.
Pillars of the
Good.
community. But then my cousins, even on my father's side, have bought books.
Good.
But my sister really thought that I was supposed to give her a book. You got a whole job. You got a husband, got a job. You got adult children that have
It's
jobs.
the sense of entitlement that's really all it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was like,
I
no.
but it's where we came from. Like
Yeah.
people really don't understand. See, people see there's chapters. There's Kansas City. People have no clue about Kansas City really and where we came from. They don't know
They really don't.
about 40th Street. They don't know
Mhm.
about 39th Street. They don't know about the trenches. They don't know about where we came
Mhm.
from for real. They don't.
Mhm.
All they see is doctor. So
Mhm.
they expect these things from us because we have this title, but they don't know how it took
Yeah.
what we had to do to get here.
Mhm.
And so I hate to hear that in a situation where the family should be supportive and recognize you as a first to do things,
Mhm.
that they're not. I hate to hear it. I do.
Yeah.
Have I kept in contact? Of course. Did we lose contact? I don't really think so. I think what happened was life,
Yeah.
events, things of that nature.
Mhm.
But let me let you know how special you are
Thank you.
because other people do recognize it. Our family is not going to be happy about our successes because we're the only ones that are doing it.
Yeah. And it shouldn't even be like that.
But guess what?
It shouldn't.
You can I think that's the reason why it's important for us to address those things
Yeah.
under the ACEs umbrella. We're not having these conversations. I just watched a whole live of
Mhm.
people sharing stories.
Yeah.
They're sharing stories under the ACEs umbrella.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
this is happening in our homes.
Yeah. It is. It's sad. And
Will you advocate for adverse childhood experiences.
Yeah, of course.
You're in a space, not to say that you haven't, but you're in a space where you really can. I think it's not our generation that has to have this conversation. It's those millennials that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
They need to know, because see, I feel like our generation did what we were supposed to do for that generation. And I think that's the reason why that self of entitlement is there, because we've done things for this next generation that they're not aware of. So they're not aware of the homelessness that people have been through because they've never been in that situation before, or people taking mass shootings as a joke when we went to school, it wasn't even. Now they're saying, oh, you guys should put metal detectors. Well,
I literally said that in my WhatsApp chat with the Black Woman for Kamala. I was like, what? I said, we always had metal detectors in high school. So
in the 90s.
yes, I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that schools didn't have them.
Right. And that's what I'm saying.
It took me being outside of Kansas City and walking into schools here in 2006, 2007, and seeing, I was like, oh, you just walk in. Okay.
I told people when it came to Chicago, because everybody was like, oh my God, you moved to Chicago. Well, let's be clear. I survived Kansas City.
Yeah.
I can survive Kansas City. I can survive.
During the crack epidemic, like we used to watch kick-ins. When people were like talking about Hillary in the 2016 election, talking about super predators, they were super predators. You know how many crack houses were closed and shut down and boarded up in our neighborhood after the crime bill?
They don't
Like,
know that.
you know how many pastors begged lawmakers to pass the crime bill, but Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton are the villains?
Here she go. I knew it was coming out, but that's okay, because they don't know. I think I think your worth is so valuable. It really is. And I think people need to just take time out to understand stories, because you've given us several. And let's be clear, you guys, she's telling her testimony. She's telling you about God. She's telling you about faith. She's telling you about all of these things. I feel like as a mentor, I've always said, I have been through these things, so you don't have to go through those. But there are some things that you share with me that honestly,
yeah.
We've done this. This isn't
anything.
anything new. I think my community is used to people that I've mentored over the years. Let's be clear. So this is not anything new. I've had mentees here. But it's different when you're talking to somebody that really grew up with you for real.
Yeah.
And again, I didn't want to make mention of these things because, again, when I'm sharing the story, people don't believe me at all, surprisingly, because they just know Dr. Williams. They don't really know what it took to become Dr. VicTORIEus.
Man.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I, again, want to thank you.
It's not easy. It's not easy leaving all that you knew, especially when I went to school in our hometown for undergrad. You went to school like down the road, to come home whenever. It's not easy after doing all of that, staying in Kansas City I think we both stayed in Kansas City like 2 years after graduating. And then we left 1,000 miles away, 2,000 miles, like we left. Like you didn't leave the time zone, at least. I left the time zone.
You did.
You know, and I just feel like, and it's like it wasn't hard, but I didn't realize that one, I was equipped because of how we grew up. Like when you grow up struggling, you know how to live with roommates because you've lived with like multi-generations in your home.
Exactly. That's
like,
ACEs.
Yeah, you don't need to be dealing to learn how to deal with different kinds of people. You know, when you walk down the street and you see people who may be, you know, on drugs or inebriated, you grew up with that in your home. So walking, you know, being, you know, let's say in Compton, California, not Compton, well, I say South Central, or being in Southeast DC, I laugh all the time. People be like, I don't want to go past this certain point on the train, on the metro here in DC. I'm like, why?
Right.
But then I also realize, and this is not a slight or throwing shade at people who come from certain types of backgrounds, but I realize that most of my friends here in DC, they're Cosby kids.
And that's a whole,
Yeah.
and
They
I
have
say
no
that to
clue.
say, bringing up ACEs, and I bring it up so much because our community is the community that needs to be aware of it. Let's be clear. People have been having conversations about ACEs for years. We're the community that is not. So for you to say, yeah, that community is the Cosby community, let's be clear. You got to kind of know what that means. We're talking about a father. We're talking about a mother. We're talking about a doctor. We're talking about
Several
a
generations of college graduates.
exactly.
People who like don't know what first gen is, but you trying to mentor first gen students. No. That
And
don't how
again,
this work. And they be the ones that get the good jobs working with, my brother's keeper. Because I just went to a conference last week, CBC. But working with all these different programs, and I'll be like, but your mama got a whole PhD. Like your father is a doctor, like a medical doctor.
there's nothing wrong with that.
No, it's not.
It's
But
the
it's
fact
when
that
you get
you have to.
overlooked and you don't have opportunities, and you actually can bring real life experience to these situations. That's my thing. Or being told when I first got sick, why can't you just go home? Like, it's just that easy. Or being told, oh, you should just apply for this job or apply for that job. Really? Or you shouldn't take a job less than $80,000 a year because you have a PhD. So I started applying for jobs above that, right? So a job that became available, the HR person wouldn't even tell me about it because I told them I wanted this amount. Listening to the Cosby kids. Yep, missed out on a couple jobs like that. That year I was looking for a job after I graduated. When people think that something's wrong with you because you can't find a job.
So I gotta do better to check on you. That's what it sounds like.
Because these are things that happen, and I was like, I can't even entertain you because you don't understand my struggle. Like, I can't even entertain you. And
so
I'm okay with that.
And it's okay to be okay with it, but we have a pandemic on the rise that people are not talking about, and where we normalize it in our community, the numbers are growing up. They're growing. I mean, you know what I mean? People are not taking care of their mental health.
Yeah.
People need to take care of their mental health just as much as they take care of their physical health.
Yeah.
And as a person that has struggled with mental health and physical health, what are your words? What do you say to those that are struggling with both?
I mean, don't be afraid to open up and ask for help. I think that when I couldn't afford, even now, can't afford therapy, I found therapy, in the Bible or in a sermon, or I'll talk to someone that will listen. You don't have to give feedback or anything. Sometimes you just want someone to listen to you. Sometimes you just want to get stuff off your chest. But then also give yourself grace. And that's something that people keep telling me, that I don't give myself enough grace. Those days when you just are not motivated to keep applying for jobs, it's hard applying for jobs. Give yourself grace.
But you know what? I'm going to say this, and then I want people to know where to find you, because you got a book, and it's called God's Got Jokes. Are you listening to him? Because you're saying all of these wonderful things, but you also have to realize that sometimes God gives you responsibility for you to accept. I'm saying to you right now, this is year number 2, and I'm out here growing through the grace of God independently as an entrepreneur, single woman, raising 3 girls. If God brings you to it, he can bring you through it. I think he wants to hear you talk about the successes more instead of, well, this is where I'm at now, because God will put you in a position where the world can change quickly.
Yeah.
So
I was
we
just
have to
sharing that
also
testimony.
listen.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have to share that with you, because being an author, again, you're talking to someone who I feel had a responsibility and mentorship with you.
Mm.
And then I saw the things that you were doing. I joined in. You got your PhD before me. You went to a HBC. You did things. You were setting a tone.
Thank
It's a struggle. We know that.
you.
However, you did it. So you also have to continue to lead by example, and don't let these things, use them as experiences, because they're things that you don't want other people to go through or witness. That's
Yeah.
what adverse childhood experiences are. We
Mhm.
normalize it. We normalize these things, and we have to stop, because bringing awareness to it is what's going to help us heal.
Yeah.
Your book is going to be a testimony. It already is.
Mm-hmm.
So tell our listeners where to find you.
Okay, so do not buy my book from Amazon. Jeff Bezos has enough money. Since this has been recorded, right? So yeah, he got enough money, y'all. But my book, God's Got Jokes: How I Use My Faith and God's Humor to Survive Breast Cancer, can be purchased from me directly on my website. That's neoshoPonder.com. And when you purchase directly from me, not only are you pouring into me and my ministry, I also give books away to survivors all the time. And I sign it, I emboss it, and I give you a little gift. So you're not just getting this book, you're also getting a whole experience. Additionally, my book is a multimedia experience. Okay. So what I didn't share was I earned a PhD in communication, culture, and media. I never got to actually use that PhD, in a sense of I got sick a year later. So I had to figure out a way to use my gifts and talents God blessed me with and that I earned. So working with another ADHD girl one night writing my book, we came up with this idea of me putting QR codes in my book. So first she said just one QR code, because I was talking about how music really inspired me, and I wish this way people could listen to the music that inspired me. She said, always put a QR code in your first at the end of your first chapter so people can listen to music while they're reading. Well, because I'm extra. And deltas don't do stuff lightly. We always loud, and we always got to make sure that it's seen and known. So every chapter has a QR code. You scan that QR code at the end of every chapter, and you will hear music and see pictures from each chapter. My book has 17 chapters. Okay, I have 17 QR codes, 17 different pages that you only can access with those QR codes. And it has music from that chapter and pictures from that chapter. So when you read The Makings of Me, which is chapter 4, you hear music, you hear the song The Makings of Me by Curtis Mayfield, which I love. I grew up on that music. But also you see pictures of my mom. When people reading about Pam, and they were like, okay, Pam sounds like she is hilarious. She is, by the way. I'm nowhere near as funny as Pam. But you get to see what Pam looks like. When I talk about the little old man who left me 2 weeks before I started chemo, my biological father, and how I genuinely look like him. When people compliment my looks, I say, courtesy of the little old man, you see his picture. You see the man who raised me. The man who made me Neosho, the respectable woman you see before you, my dad, Roger. So you get to see me and my sister Tiana when we were little, things like that. So there are pictures all on my website, and I'm paying for this website, y'all, so y'all gonna have to use it. So scan those QR codes. Yeah, I'm like literally the money coming out of my account next week. They just sent me a reminder the other day. So, but scan those QR codes. Go to my website, neoshoPonder.com, and also hopefully Dr. Torie will put my links and everything, wherever you see this recording. And also you can reach out to me directly. My email address is jokesbygod@gmail.com. That's jokesbygod@gmail.com. You can email me as well, and I can send you the link to order the book. I ship for free, so I don't want to hear I'm ordering from Amazon because I got Amazon Prime. I got Amazon Prime too. So what I decided is, again, he got enough money. He's sending people to space. He ain't gave nobody a scholarship. Okay, let's be very clear. So order from me, and just know I'm going to continue to pour into people, not only through the Tiger Lily Foundation. I'm an adjunct professor, and just so you know, adjunct professor is not a fancy title. It's literally like I teach one class at a time, so I don't make much money. I don't even make rent, okay? But I pour into students, so that buying my book also helps me. Like, I'm having an event, a breast cancer event that I was just asked to do at my university, Trinity Washington University. So I want to be able to feed the students. I got to buy the food, right? I want to be able to have giveaways for the students. I got to place orders from Jeff Bezos. So these things, when you purchase my book, it's $25, but you get it signed, a note. I'm not just putting my signature in there, okay? I actually write a note to you, and I also give you a gift, and I emboss it. And you have access, like I said, those QR codes where you can really see. When I tell y'all I was on CNN, I'm not making that up. There's a whole video from that chapter. You scan the QR code, you'll see it on my website. I was bald. They wouldn't let me wear my hat, girl, because they said it was it was putting a shadow over my face from the lights. But I had no hair, I had no boobs, and I was going through radiation at the time. A week later, my burn started, and I chronicle the burn.
But we're here.
Vivid details in the book,
and we're here.
Amen. And I'm here, and I have boobs.
You know what?
I have boobs. They don't have a cup size or anything. I just had them refilled. Because when you go through reconstruction, my left boob is my stomach, and my right boob is my back, and I named them after my cousins. So my left boob, her name is Sean. My right boob's name is Sanika, because Sean is older than Sanika, but Sanika's taller than Sean. And they think I'm crazy, but I name everything. Like, I named Clarence, who's officially Black History, my tumor. And but I tell people about my boobs. I don't mind. I think our country's it's just so touchy-feely and prudish when it comes to the human body. But they literally made my breast out of my stomach.
I think it's interesting.
They literally
started off talking about them, but I wanted to.
No, I don't mind. If I had a sports bra on, I would even show you some of my scars. Like, you can see my radiation scars start like up here. Which I never want this to go away because it's easy to show people and it's not too offensive. I'm Team Barbie. I don't have nipples. What do you need them for? I had a double mastectomy. I have no breast tissue, so I don't need nipples. And I also can wear see-through shirts and nobody will know. So yeah, one day, and I have a big old scar across the bottom of my stomach. I have a new belly button. I don't have a fupa because that's how they made my boobs originally. But one side failed. So I was in ICU for a week, and I talk about that in the book as well.
So let's just get the book. That's what we need to do.
The book.
I want to get the book.
And the book is not just about breast cancer. Like I said, it's a whole chapter talked about my family and how I came to be so faithful to God. Because I grew up in a house with a Pentecostal minister and a minister of music. Went to church a lot, growing up. Not as much as my mom and her siblings. And but also I talk about, it being, there's a whole chapter called It's Lonely at the Top. Being an educated Black woman, that has a terminal degree that is pretty attractive. It's not easy to get companionship, to be vulnerable even to men, because you always wonder, are they with me because of me, or are they with me because of the way I look, or with me because of my body, or my education, or my sorority, or something. And so I talk about that. I'm very open and honest about how I battled dealing with dating. And now it's
the book.
I wrote the book at 41. I'm 44 now. It ain't got no easier.
Right. But guess what? I think you gotta start giving yourself a lot of credit on the fact that you are here.
Yeah, and that's
here.
The last chapter of my book is called The Best Is Yet to Come.
Very good.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm saying all of this because it's already written, right?
Right.
But you know, like I have a chapter called There's No Place Like Home, because everybody swears that Kansas City, Missouri is in Kansas. So I just play on you know, Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, but you know, the best
Don't give them too much.
I don't
Don't give
mind giving you
too
my
much.
chapter names.
You can't,
I don't
because
mind.
guess what? We want them to buy
Oh,
the
they don't have a
book.
choice because they don't know what all I say. That's what I'm saying. Like, oh, she got a chapter.
No,
But
no. My people on my podcast, let's be clear. If you're here, you're valuable.
yeah.
You want to give them something. So let's give them something. You
Okay.
gave your information in regards to the book. You've given them so much. I think this podcast is going to be the one because you talk about so much. Even in your book, you talk about aces, you just don't know it. You need to start making that a part of your vocabulary, because I'm telling you, once people start having a conversation about aces, hint, hint, and having those words that you just used that need to be used in regards to aces, then we can continue to have the conversation. Let's be clear, because that's the problem. And no shade, but we don't have this conversation in our community. You just talked about aces 15,432 times and still haven't said the words adverse childhood experiences. So again,
Adverse childhood experiences. I
and we
mean,
need to keep saying
it's
it,
all forms
because,
of because and everything that we do can be related to that.
that's it. But again,
successes or failures, in one way or another, we are a product of our environment.
That's it. And that's really, really what it is.
Yes, ma'am.
And I have to thank you again, because again, you are not the product of your environment. So give yourself a round of applause. You're more than the 2%. You know what I mean? Because you're the exception and you're God's child.
Yes.
And it's an honor, again, just to be here to share my part of the story as far as knowing you. Because look at us now. We did make it. We made it out of Kansas City. And guess what? I can share in a lot of your sentiments, because I too am a first generation high school graduate. But again, until people can understand ACEs, and stuff like how you talked about generational trauma and talk about working with people with empathy and compassion, we will never be able, nobody will understand. So that's why we're here. That's why the podcast is here. It's an educational tool for people to understand. And everybody's story is different.
Yeah.
Your story is going to be accepted. Watch it. And I'm telling you guys now, this is the reason why I love the podcast, because we get guests that share their stories, and everybody's story is different, but somehow that story combines because we have that commonality of understanding, awareness in regards to ACEs. Because again, I'm talking to you about breast cancer, but I can guarantee you there were people on the podcast that have had breast cancer or didn't get a chance to talk about breast cancer because of all of the experiences we've been through.
Yeah.
So again, I thank you for being here.
Touching foods that'll save your life. I found my own lump. I was 36. I wasn't even getting mammograms, you know, like.
And see, and again, we don't do mammograms in our community because we don't know what it is. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, trust me.
These are the conversations that have to happen. And until there's an awareness, or it happens to somebody else, like you said, we talked about the abuse of somebody else, or the breast cancer, or living with the different parents. Until it's somebody else or it resonates, then people are still going to ignore
that part. Yep.
So again, I can have this conversation with Loquacious as much as I can. I've never, and I confess, nope, haven't called her Neosho since I met her. Sorry,
it's okay.
Never.
I love you.
And when we finally got that name, it's been that name for what, 26 years now? Okay. And I want you guys to know that I always am going to enjoy talking to people that grew up with me, because you all really don't understand our experiences. And with this one, I appreciate you being here. So again, another fabulous episode of Be Victorious, and you all will see her again. Let's be clear. We have some things that we have to do, because I got to bring her back to the community where we came from, so we can let people in our community know we can make it.
And we have to have another episode. I want to talk about parents.
Ooh, and we can.
Yeah,
We
that'll be
can.
the next episode.
Because that's also aces too. But let's be clear, you will see more of her because she's me. And you have another episode again of Be Victorious.
Yay. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. And thank you guys for tuning in. We will talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.